Welcome back to Jack and Rex Tales. He walked into the gun shop like a man who had learned long ago not to need anything from the room he entered. No announcement, no expectation, just a quiet presence that settled into the space the way cold air settles without asking permission. But Jack Thompson, standing behind the back office door with a box of inventory in his hands, saw him through the narrow window strip in the door and stopped breathing for a moment. Because the last time he had seen that face, 50 men were still alive who might not have been. He stood there, box in hand, completely still, and for a few seconds, the gun shop in Mill Haven, Kentucky, disappeared entirely. The glass cases, the mounted displays, the sound of his employees talking, all of it fell away, and what came back instead was the smell of diesel and cold mud, the sound of failing engines, and the voice of one man speaking calmly into chaos like he had all the time in the world. Thompson set the box down slowly, took a breath, and pushed the door open. That morning had started the way most mornings started in Mill Haven. Gray sky pressing low, the diner across the street fogged at the windows. The kind of quiet that belongs to small Kentucky towns in winter when the cold keeps everything a little slower and a little more honest. Jack Turner had sat in his old pickup for longer than necessary before going in. His hands rested on the steering wheel, not gripping, just resting, the way a man rests his hands when the decision's already made, but the body hasn't caught up yet. He was 63 years old. His boots were worn smooth at the toe. His brown canvas jacket had seen a decade of winters at minimum. His hands were large and rough, not the roughness of someone who worked out, but the roughness of someone who had spent 40 years doing things that needed doing. Fence posts, frozen ground, engines that didn't want to start. He glanced in the rearview mirror. Hanging from it was a small leather tag. Dark at the edges, the letters pressed into it faded but still readable. His thumb reached up and brushed across it once. Slow, familiar. The way you touch something you've touched so many times it has become less of a habit and more of a prayer. He let it go. On the passenger seat, Rex lifted his broad head and watched him, patient, steady. Those amber eyes holding the same calm they always held, the particular calm of a dog who has learned that his person's silences are not empty. Jack looked at him for a moment. Something in his face eased. "Back soon," he said quietly. Rex lowered his chin back to his paws. Jack got out. The bell above the door gave a soft, hollow ring. A few heads turned. What they saw took about 5 seconds to process and dismiss. An older man, early 60s, dusty boots, faded jeans, worn jacket, hands that had worked hard for a long time, the kind of man small towns produce quietly and the rest of the world drives past without noticing. 3 young salesmen stood behind the counter, mid-conversation. One of them noticed Jack first. The grin came easily, the kind that doesn't intend cruelty but causes it anyway. Jack rested one hand lightly on the glass display case. "I'm looking for a pistol, home defense." The tallest salesman leaned forward slightly. The smirk was already in place. "Home defense, huh?" He drew it out just enough to make it something other than a question. Another one chuckled quietly. Then came the line, tossed out casual and careless, the way young men toss things when they haven't yet learned that words have weight. "Sorry, sir, we don't carry tractor parts here." A couple of quiet laughs, not loud and not aggressive, just enough, the kind of disrespect that hides inside humor so it can always say it didn't mean anything. Jack Turner didn't flinch, didn't stiffen, didn't argue. He looked at each of them, one at a time, with a steadiness that had no bottom to it. Not anger, not hurt, something older than both. The look of a man who had been underestimated so many times that it had simply stopped being surprising, the way a river stops being surprised by rain. Then he asked one quiet question. "Is Jack Thompson in today?" The smirk slipped slightly. "Boss?" The tallest one glanced at the others. "Not yet. Should be within the hour." Turner nodded once. "That's all right," he said. "I'll wait." He chose a chair near the front window, sat down slowly, the careful way men sit when their joints have kept honest score of the years, and rested his hands on his knees. Still, patient, like a man who had spent significant portions of his life waiting for the right moment, and had learned that the right moment rarely came to those who rushed it. Outside, he could see the truck, Rex watching from the passenger window, chin resting on the door frame, amber eyes steady and calm. Jack held his gaze for a moment, then looked at his hands. Behind the counter, the jokes resumed, quieter now, less certain, because something about this old man didn't match the joke anymore. He sat too still, too settled. One older customer near the back wall glanced over once, and then looked again, longer the second time, with the particular expression of someone trying to place something they can't name. 20 minutes passed, then 30. Then the back office door opened, and Jack Thompson stepped out. He crossed the shop floor with the easy confidence of a man in his own space, nodding at a customer, scanning the room out of habit. And then his eyes moved to the chair by the front window, and everything stopped. His feet stopped. His expression stopped. The room didn't know it yet, but something had just shifted inside it. Something invisible and irreversible, the way a temperature drops before anyone has checked the thermometer. Thompson took one slow step forward, then another. His eyes never left the old man. When he spoke, his voice came out low, careful, the way you speak when you're not entirely sure the moment is real. "Mr. Turner." A pause that held everything. "Sir." Turner looked up. Something passed across his face, not surprise, not emotion exactly, but the specific quality of recognition between two people who share a place that neither of them visits lightly. He nodded once. "Jack," he said. Behind the counter, the tallest salesman frowned. "Wait, you know him?" Thompson didn't answer immediately. He was still looking at Turner, still confirming something, still standing in two places at once, a gun shop in Kentucky and a valley somewhere far away where things had gone badly wrong, and this man had been the reason they hadn't gone worse. Then he turned, slowly. "You boys have any idea," he said quietly, "who you've been talking to?" The three of them went still in a way they hadn't all morning. No one answered. Thompson pulled a stool from behind the counter and sat down, not behind it, but in front of it. Like this wasn't a transaction anymore, like this was something that needed to be said properly. "About 8 years ago," he began, "our unit was operating in rough terrain, equipment failing, 2 vehicles buried in soft ground, engines overheating, radios cutting in and out." He paused. "And men doing what frightened men do, pushing harder, getting louder,
trying to force their way through a situation that didn't respond to force.
The shop was very quiet now. Even the older customer near the back had stopped moving. This man was a civilian contractor. He wasn't supposed to be anywhere near that area. He'd stayed behind to help with a secondary mechanical problem, and he ended up in the middle of something he had no obligation to be part of and every reason to walk away from. He looked at Turner. Turner said nothing, just sat, hands on his knees, still as the room around him. He didn't raise his voice. He didn't panic. He didn't try to be the hero. He just looked at the ground, at the angles nobody else was seeing, at the machines and what they actually needed rather than what we were demanding of them. Thompson's voice dropped slightly, and then he started talking. Simple, clear. Move this here. Stop that engine before it seizes. Wait, don't pull. Let it settle. Use what you have, not what you wish you had. One of the younger salesmen had stopped leaning on the counter. His face had changed completely. The ease was gone. Something more honest and more painful had taken his place. 50 men walked out of that valley, Thompson said. Silence. 50 men went home to their families because this man, in dusty boots and a worn jacket, with no rank and no weapon and no reason to stay, kept his head when the rest of us lost ours. He let that sit, and then, quiet as still, and then he went back to his farm, and he never told a single person. Every eye in the room moved to Jack Turner. He hadn't shifted, wasn't proud, wasn't uncomfortable. He sat exactly as he had been sitting, patient, steady, present, looking at Thompson with the same calm that had no bottom to it. Somebody had to think straight, Turner said. His voice was even, simple. It needed doing. That was all. The tallest salesman, the one who had made the tractor parts joke, stepped slowly out from behind the counter. His face had changed completely. The ease was gone. Something more honest and more painful had taken his place.
Sir, his voice was quieter than it had been all day. Turner looked at him. The young man took a breath. I owe you a real apology. What I said earlier was disrespectful and wrong, and I'm sorry. He paused, and when he continued, his voice was slightly unsteady. I didn't know who you were. Turner looked at him for a long moment, not with coldness, not with triumph, with something that felt almost like kindness. Son, he said gently, that's the whole point. You don't always get to know. A small pause. That's why you treat every single person who walks through that door with full respect, not because you know their story. His eyes were steady and warm and completely serious, because you don't. The young man nodded, slowly, like something had just been placed in his hands that he understood he needed to be careful with. Thompson helped Turner at the counter after that, unhurried, plain language, no talking down. When Turner picked up the second option and checked it with the quiet familiarity of a man who had handled weapons before, not casually, but with knowledge, nobody was surprised anymore. That one'll do, Thompson said. Turner nodded once. That's all I need. And it sounded like he meant more than just the pistol. Outside, the winter sun had pushed weakly through the gray and laid itself thin and pale across the parking lot. Thompson carried the bag out and set it carefully in the truck bed. Rex watched from the passenger seat, patient, steady, those amber eyes moving from Thompson to Turner and back again with calm and quiet intelligence. Thompson reached through the open window. Rex sniffed his hand once, then gave it a slow, deliberate lick. Thompson smiled, just barely. They stood beside the truck without rushing it, Two men in a quiet parking lot in a town that most people drove through without stopping. No ceremony, no audience, just the thin winter light and the sound of a distant road and the particular silence that belongs to people who have shared something words can't fully hold.
"Good seeing you again, sir," Thompson said. Turner gave a small nod. "You too, Jack." Then, after a pause that felt full rather than empty, "Take care of your people." Thompson's jaw tightened slightly, not hiding emotion, holding it. "Yes, sir." Turner got in slowly, settled into the seat, reached over and rested one hand briefly on Rex's broad back, and Rex, without being asked, leaned quietly into it, like he understood, like he always understood. The old truck started on the first turn. It rolled out slowly, no hurry, no noise, just a faded pickup moving through a pale Kentucky morning, carrying a man that most of the world had no idea existed. Thompson stood and watched it until it turned the corner and disappeared, then stood one moment longer, because some goodbyes ask you to stay still for just a little while after. That evening, Jack Turner sat on the back porch of a farmhouse that had been in his family for 3 generations. The fields were pale and silent in the fading winter light. The cold had settled in fully now, the kind that seeps rather than strikes, the kind that makes old houses creak and old men sit closer to whatever warmth they have. On the small wooden table beside his chair sat a photograph, a woman with kind eyes and a wide, easy smile, her arm around a younger version of Turner somewhere warm, a summer somewhere, a day that felt like it would last. Margaret, his wife of 31 years, his person, the one who had always known when he'd had a hard day without him saying a word, who had filled the farmhouse with a warmth that had nothing to do with the furnace, who had been gone now for 4 winters, and whose absence he carried the way you carry something precious and broken, carefully, always, in both hands. He looked at the photograph for a long time. "Had a strange morning," he said softly. Not to no one, to her, the way he always talked to her now, quietly, in the evenings, when the farm was still and the day was done, and there was no one left to perform anything for. The fields didn't answer. But the quiet that came back didn't feel empty. It never did in this chair, in this lot, with her face in his hands. He held the photograph gently, those large, worn hands that had fixed engines and pulled fence posts, and once in a valley far from Kentucky found the way through when 50 men needed one, and he just sat with it, with her, with the life they had built together in this house on this land, and the half of it he was still living out alone. After a while he looked up at the pale, darkening sky. "Still here," he said quietly. "Still doing what needs doing." He set the photograph back carefully and sat in the growing dark. Not a hero, just a man who had always believed that when something needed doing, you did it, and you didn't need a single soul to know. There is a kind of courage that never gets a ceremony. It doesn't arrive in uniform or announce itself with medals. It shows up in dusty boots and worn jackets. It sits quietly in waiting room chairs. It keeps its voice steady when every voice around it is rising. It is the courage of the person who has already proven themselves in places no one photographed, who asks for nothing in return except to be treated like a human being. Jack Turner is every quiet veteran you've passed at the grocery store, every older farmer you followed down a country road on a Tuesday morning, every grandfather who sat in the corner at family gatherings and didn't talk much about where he'd been. He is every person who changed an outcome that mattered and then went home and planted their fields and loved their people and carried their grief and kept going, because that is what they had always done. And somewhere tonight, there is a young man behind a gun shop counter who will never again look at someone and think he understands them in 5 seconds. Because of one morning, one conversation, one old man in dusty boots who sat down to wait and left something behind he didn't even know he was given.
If this story reminded you of someone steady, someone humble, someone who shaped your life quietly and never asked for the credit, then you already understand what real courage looks like. Subscribe to Jack and Rex Tales, because every week we come back to the people the world forgets to notice, and we remember them the way they deserve, with honesty, with gratitude, and with the quiet certainty that the best among us are almost always the ones you'd never guess. This story holds genuine and lasting value for every viewer who sits with it honestly. It confronts the deeply human habit of surface judgment, deciding who a person is within seconds based on appearance, age, or the wear on their boots. And it does so without lecturing, allowing the consequences to unfold naturally so that viewers recognize themselves in the lesson rather than resisting it. It honors the vast category of unrecognized service, veterans, civilian contractors, ordinary people who did extraordinary things in quiet places and returned to ordinary lives without record or reward, reminding audiences that history is full of contributions that never made it into any story except the memories of the people who were there. For older American viewers specifically, it validates the experience of being overlooked, of carrying a life's worth of hard-earned wisdom in a body the world has started to dismiss, and it affirms that dignity does not depend on being known. The thread of grief running through Turner's evening, the photograph, the quiet conversation with Margaret, gives the story an additional layer of emotional truth, acknowledging that many viewers carry their own versions of that chair, that porch, that fading light, and that the people we've lost are still very much part of how we move through the world.